Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
My name is Denee Choice. I'm a medical doctor. I was in clinical practice for about 20 years. I'm also a former healthcare senior executive, and I currently have my own coaching business. I do executive and life coaching for women physicians, for women leaders in healthcare, as well as in a lot of other industries. And I do a lot of work with burnout, work-life balance, as well as some leadership coaching. So all of these topics that we hit on today are just so pertinent to the lives of women leaders. So again, thank you. One of the topics that comes up in my clients across all industries is gender bias. So the gap I'm referring to here is obviously the gender gap. Being a physician and working with a lot of women physician clients, I can assure you that even in medicine, where women make up nearly half of the workforce, and women have actually started to outnumber men coming out of medical schools, which is a great thing, by the way. But I can assure you that even in medicine, the gender gap is alive and well. And in fact, male doctors make $2 million more over the course of their careers than female doctors. And that's even after correcting for all variables, including specialty, work hours per week, years worked, experience, et cetera. So that's not insignificant. Again, I see it across all industries. So I'll go ahead and next slide, please. So, the gender gap isn't just one thing. So yes, there's definitely a gap in pay. Equal work does not mean equal pay, unfortunately. But there are other gaps, right? I mean, there's opportunity gap. There's a gap in respect. There's a gap in responsibility. The panel kind of hit on that, where more responsibility seems to fall to the women. So why the gaps here? Well, there are internal and there are external factors. But the external factors, and these are things such as how we're socialized, how we're enculturated, all the organizational norms and cultures we're exposed to in our workplaces. This is really the basis for the gender gap. And on top of that, there are some internal factors. And actually, Denise talked on these, so very appropriate. But, the way we think, feel, and act, which of course are influenced heavily by the external factors, but those come into play as well. And, the gender gap is a big problem, and I have no solutions to offer you today for the external factors. But what I'd really like to do is focus on, for me, what I like to focus on is what I have control of. I have control of me. I have control of my own thoughts and feelings and actions. And then I have some influence on those in my sphere of influence, of course. But what I'm offering you today is a tool to focus on what you have control of, and that's your thoughts and feelings and actions. And this tool I'm going to share with you is really the antidote to the internal factors that cause women, and especially women leaders like you all, to self-sabotage. So I want to introduce you to this tool that I use with my clients to build mental fitness. And just as we need to train in specific ways to increase our physical fitness, we can train in other ways to increase our mental fitness. And this tool was actually developed by Positive Intelligence, which is abbreviated as PQ. And that's in reference to being our third form of intelligence. So we have IQ, which is cognitive intelligence. We have EQ, which is emotional intelligence. And then PQ is actually positive intelligence. And mental fitness is the path to developing positive intelligence. So what is mental fitness? Mental fitness is your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than negative mindset. And the impact of developing higher levels of mental fitness is that it helps you to achieve peak performance. It helps you in your relationships, and it helps you with your peace of mind and emotional wellness. Mental fitness is an evidence-based tool, meaning that it's based on science and research, and it was created based on concepts from neuroscience, cognitive behavioral psychology, performance science, and positive psychology. And the tool is developed using factor analysis, which is a method of radical simplification, and it identifies the root cause of performance and wellness outcomes. So an example here is factor analysis of all the thousands of colors in the world comes down to only 3 colors, right? Red, blue, and yellow. So when they completed the factor analysis on the scientific evidence around these 4 disciplines, they found there were only 3 core muscles at the root of mental fitness. And those are referred to as the saboteur interrupter, the sage, and self-command. And in defining these components, they found only 10 ways that all individuals self-sabotage our performance and our happiness, and 5 ways we can improve our performance and wellness or happiness. And so backing up to the 3 core muscles, we'll start by digging into the saboteurs. So the judge is the master saboteur. This is the saboteur that we all have, and it's the most prominent saboteur in all of us. So you're familiar with the term inner critic, which is one component of the judge. That's when we're judging ourselves. But the judge saboteur also causes us to judge others and our circumstances. And it's important to note that all negative thoughts and feelings are initially triggered by that judge saboteur, either judging ourselves, judging others, or judging our circumstances. And a good way to start to be on the lookout for the judge is when you find yourself saying should or shouldn't. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have talked to me like that. All of those, that's the judge. You're either judging yourself, judging others, or judging your circumstance. Next, please. So the judge is not alone. The judge has 9 accomplice saboteurs. So the judge will trigger some negative thought or emotion and then bring in his accomplice saboteurs. Shouldn't say his or hers. And while we all have the judge, we all have different combinations of accomplice saboteurs. So we tend to have 2 or 3 top ones that come out frequently. And these are really wired in us at birth. So we're predisposed to developing certain behaviors and certain habits of the mind. And then it's further shaped and strengthened by our experiences in childhood, young adulthood, etc. And any mothers out there that have more than one child can attest to being able to recognize the inherent difference in the nature of their children that's noticeable really from birth. And each child has different strengths and challenges despite being raised in the same environment. So it's definitely we always talk about the nature versus nurture in a controversy. It's definitely nature. And then, of course, it's further formed by what we're exposed to. And the accomplice saboteurs that we most commonly see in high achieving women are some combination of people pleasing, perfectionism, which is called the stickler here, and imposter syndrome, which comes from the judge. And I would say the other one, avoider, is a big one that shows up for a lot of individuals too, and that either shows up as procrastination or conflict avoidance. So what's important to understand is that saboteurs and sage live in different parts of our brain. So saboteurs are motivated by negative emotions, while sage is motivated by positive emotions. And saboteurs, they can actually help you generate success. They can help you generate success, but not happiness. Where sage, when you're acting from your sage brain, it helps you generate really your highest levels of success and sustained happiness. So negative emotions are helpful. They're helpful as a warning sign. Just like when you put your hand on a hot stove, you know immediately to take your hand off. But staying in negative emotions really interferes with our ability to see things clearly and respond in a way that serves us. And I'm sure you've all experienced this before, where you maybe get really angry and you just really stew in that anger when you feel wronged. And think about what that does to your day, right? I mean, you spend the whole day just angry and stressed and not focusing on what you really want to be focusing on. This often shows up as ruminating on past mistakes or spending time worrying about the future. So negative emotions are a warning signal, but not where you want to stay. And remember, negative emotions, anytime you have a negative emotion, it's a saboteur voice in your head. So we grow our saboteur interceptor muscles to interrupt this process. So just touch briefly on the sage muscle. The sage is like our inner wisdom, so opposite of our inner critic, and it's also our most authentic self. The sage doesn't rely solely on our cognitive intelligence or rational thought, but it also taps into our body and the intelligences that we associate with our heart and our gut feeling, right? Or you feel, we have all these phrases that refer to that, but that's real. So sage incorporates all of the intelligences in our body and in our brain. And sage lives in the area of the brain that's associated. Sage lives in the area of brain that's associated with positive emotion, with clear-headed focus, and big picture thinking. And the sage operates from what we call the sage perspective. So the sage perspective is the understanding that every outcome can be turned into a gift and opportunity. So I want to share a story with you that illustrates this sage perspective. So this is the stallion story. An old farmer lives on his farm with his teenage son. He also has a beautiful stallion that he lovingly cares for. The farmer enters his stallion into the annual county fair competition. His stallion wins first prize. The farmer's neighbors gather to congratulate him on his great win. He calmly says, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" Puzzled by this reaction, the neighbors go away. The next week, some thieves who heard about the stallion's increased value steal the horse. When the neighbors come to commiserate with the farmer, they find him again very calm and gathered. He says, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" Several days later, the spirited stallion escapes from the thieves and finds his way back to the farm, bringing with him a few wild mares he has befriended along the way. To his neighbors' excited rounds of congratulations, the old farmer once again says, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" A few weeks later, the farmer's son is thrown off of one of these new mares as he's trying to break it in, and his leg is fractured. As the neighbors gather to commiserate with the old farmer, he once again reminds them, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" The following week, the Imperial Armory marches through the village, conscripting all eligible young men for the war that has just broken out. The old farmer's son is spared due to his fractured leg. The neighbors no longer bother to come to the old farmer to congratulate him. By now, they know what his response will be. Who knows what is good and what is bad? So, which perspective is true? And the answer to that is whichever you believe becomes true. And this is the self-fulfilling prophecy, which is actually based on the neuroscience principle of cognitive bias. And that means we find evidence for what we believe and we discount any evidence to the contrary. And I think it was Henry Ford that had a famous quote that says, "If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." And that's the same principle. So the last muscle of mental fitness is self-command. And we train self-command, which is really our focus skills, by shifting all of our attention to a single physical sensation. So we're tuning into the non-thinking mind, and we refer to this practice as PQ reps. So a PQ rep, again, is very simple. it's shifting as much of your attention as you can to your body and any of your 5 physical senses for at least 10 seconds, which is about 3 breaths. And this activates the non-thinking mind. And that 10 seconds or 3 breaths, we count as 1 PQ rep. And so these reps activate and grow your self-command muscle, which helps you self-regulate your thoughts and feelings. And when you grow your self-command muscle, then this is combined with your PQ reps and mental reframing exercises. And this is what helps you intercept your saboteurs and activate your sage mind. So I would like to invite you to experience some PQ reps with me. So I'd like you to just sit up in your chair, put down your phone, try to put away any distractions, sit up in your chair and close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And I want you to, with your eyes closed if possible, feel your body weight in your chair. And notice sensation of your feet on the ground. And now shift your attention to your breath. Feel where your body shifts. The sensation of breathing in and breathing out. Whether you feel it in your chest or your belly, just focus your attention there. And now bring your attention to the tip of your nose. Feel the temperature of the air as it enters your nostrils. And feel the temperature of the air as it exits your nostrils. And now I want you to rub 2 fingertips together. Your thumb and your index finger is most easy. Rub 2 fingertips together with such a tension that you can feel the fingertip ridges on each finger. And next, what I want you to do is rub all the fingertips of one hand down the fingertips and palm of the other hand and feel all of the sensations on each hand. And switch to the other hand. Now open your eyes. Congratulations. You just did probably 6 to 10 PQ reps. It resets your brain. It resets your physiology. Most people feel much more calm. It takes you out of your head and into your body. And you can do that anytime. And that's the beauty of it. You can do this in a meeting. If you start feeling, triggered in a meeting, under the table, rub your fingertips together and feel the ridges of the fingerprints. Just taking deep breaths and focusing on the air coming in and out of your nose or your chest rising and falling. Shift into the non-thinking mind to calm down the nervous system. And, you can do these throughout the day. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So the beauty of this mental fitness operating system is that it's really simple. So how this works is when you feel negative emotions, you stop, you recognize you're in saboteur mode. Sometimes it's as simple as just naming it, like, there goes my judge, or, there's my avoider again. That really takes its power away. But so you want to notice it, stop, again, recognize you're in saboteur mode, do some PQ reps to quiet the saboteurs and activate the sage, because that's what helps you shift from your saboteur brain, those areas of the brain that fuel your saboteurs, into the areas of the brain that activate the sage. And so stop, do some PQ reps, and then assume the sage perspective that every problem can be turned into a gift and opportunity. And the system, also teaches you how, with deeper learning, how to generate the gift by using sage powers like empathy, curiosity, creativity, and calm, clear-headed action. So here's a common question I get. Is it really possible to just shift from saboteur to sage response even in tough challenges? Well, the answer is yes, but it depends on how strong your mental muscles are as to how quickly you can actually make that shift. So as an example, when I work with clients, probably in the first 1 to 2 weeks of practicing, you really see a significant shift in the small things, like getting cut off in traffic where, maybe your rage just gets real flared up when that happens. They really immediately see how recognizing that that's the saboteur and then choosing to do 10 seconds of deep breathing, noticing how the steering wheel feels in their hands, noticing, their back against the car seat, any of those things, focusing on the physical sensations that you can do even in the midst of daily activities really helps you shift. And once you see that with the small things, it makes it easier to continue the work. Because certainly bigger things, like having your basement flood or getting laid off at work, that requires much stronger muscles, but you can build them up over time. So this tool is 20% the insights that you learning how to do PQ reps, learning how to recognize your, saboteurs when they're rearing their head, and how to intercept them, as well as how to, build your sage muscles. But so it's really 20% insights and 80% building the mental muscle through practice. So if you think about riding a bike, you can read an article or watch a YouTube video about how to ride a bike, right? But you actually acquire the skill of riding a bike by practicing the physical skills. And it takes obviously far more time practicing the skills to ride a bike than just watching the YouTube video that gave you all the instructions, but it's not the same as that embodied experience of doing it. And it's because all of this is building new neural pathways in the brain. So the key to developing this into a skill that you can use every day is, what we would call intense initial effort. So that means for 6 to 8 weeks, spending 15 minutes a day. And this is like throughout the day, right? So 15 minutes total, just in mini bites throughout your day. And that's 2% of your waking hours. So really a small commitment to improve yourself. So here's an example of how to get in 15 minutes throughout your day. Do a minute of PQ reps, which is 3 breaths, right? Do a minute of PQ reps every time you wash your hands. So when you turn the water on, you feel your hands on the faucet. You notice that. Then you notice the temperature of the water as you wet your hands, and you notice the feel of the soap as you lather, and kind of the friction of your hands as you're washing. And then you feel, as you rinse, the pressure of the water on your hands as you rinse off the soap, and the texture of the towel as you dry your hand. So that's it. That's an easy minute right there. And if you go to the bathroom and wash your hands 5 times a day, you've got 5 minutes, right? So you could do the same thing with other daily routines. Every time you sit down to a meal, noticing all the physical sensations, noting the colors on your plate, noting the feel of the utensils you're using, noting the texture of the food as you're chewing, the taste and the smell. So many opportunities for every time you eat or drink something. When you stop at traffic lights, focus on your breathing, notice, the pressure of the seat back against your back, tune into any physical sensation for those few breaths while you're at every traffic light. And at work all day, every time you finish a Zoom call or a meeting in your workday, just take 1 minute to do some PQ reps. And it adds very quickly up to the 15 minutes a day you need to get in that sort of intense practice in the first 6 to 8 weeks.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or a networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.